Let the torch of freedom burn.
This is the intersection of faith and the culture. It's WallBuilders Live, and here at WallBuilders, we talk about the hottest topics of the day, but always from a biblical, historical, and constitutional perspective. We're here with David Barton, America's premier historian, and our founder at WallBuilders. Tim Barton's with us, national speaker and pastor and president of WallBuilders. And my name's Rick Green. I'm a former Texas legislator and America's Constitution coach. You can find out more about us at wallbuilderslive.com. Now, there's a lot of great tools there at the website. Number one, you can see all the stations across the country that we're on. You can get information on programs that have aired in the last few months. In fact, you can listen in the archive section to those Foundations of Freedom Thursday programs where we take your questions on foundational principles. You can also get those Good News Friday programs from the last few weeks, and if you've missed those, you need to go listen because it'll give you a pick-me-up. It'll encourage you. It'll let you hear all these great stories of positive things happening. Instead of just hearing bad news, you need to hear the good news and know that when we work our system, the system works. That when we bring these foundational principles to the forefront, when we live out our duty as citizens, when we bring that biblical worldview to bear in our culture, we actually apply God's principles to the culture around us. Good things happen. Well, folks, later in the program, Rudy Atala is going to be with us. We're going to be talking about the response to cyber warfare out there. This has got more news in the last few weeks than we normally get, and so we figured, hey, we need to know a little bit more about this, know what's happening, what kind of response America has, how are we doing as a nation to respond to the cyber attacks from other nations. And Rudy Atala, just a fantastic expert on so many different areas, and this being one of them, we thought it'd be great to have him on the program as well. So he'll be with us when we come back from the break. But as we're going to break, I want to encourage you, when you visit that website, WallBuilders Live, be sure and share it with your friends and family. I mean, one of the best things you can do if you want to be part of the solution, if you want to help to save America's constitutional republic, is for you to be a force multiplier. And what that means is that you actually multiply yourself. You're kind of like Paul Revere. You're out there making that midnight ride, hopefully at any time during the day. You're sharing with other people and saying, hey, not that the British are coming, but hey, our principles are being lost. We have to save them, and we can, and we have all the tools we need to do exactly that. And so you become a voice for the people around you. You do that in several ways. At our website, wallbuilderslive.com, just grab a link to today's program or something that you've listened to the last couple of weeks here that you really enjoyed, and share it. Send it to your friends and family. Do that just even straight up in text or direct emails to them, but maybe even put it out there on your Facebook page or with Twitter or whatever social media tools you prefer. But it's a great way for you to be a part of the solution. And then the second way I would encourage you today to be a part of the solution is making a financial contribution. So we're literally talking here about lives, your time to go share those programs with other people, fortunes, your finances. That's being willing to invest in freedom, actually take some percentage of our income and our revenue and look for good candidates to give to or good causes to donate to. And that's where WallBuilders Live fits in. It's a great opportunity for you to make a tax-deductible contribution to our program so that we can continue to have this voice and that this voice can be amplified. That's where you become a force multiplier. So lives, fortunes, and then sacred honor, being willing to speak truth wherever you may be. Be a part of all three of those, lives, fortunes, sacred honor. Do that today at wallbuilderslive.com. Quick break. We'll be right back. Rudy Atala, our special guest here on WallBuilders Live.
Hi, this is David Barton. I want to let you know about a brand new book we have out called This Precarious Moment: 6 Urgent Steps That Will Save You, Your Family, and Our Country. Jim Garlow and I have co-authored this book, and we take 6 issues that are hot in the culture right now, issues that we're dealing with, issues such as immigration and race relations and our relationship with Israel and the rising generation millennials and the absence of the church and the culture wars and where American heritage is, our godly heritage. We look at all 6 of those issues right now that are under attack, and we give you both biblical and historical perspective on those issues that provide solutions on what each of us can do right now to make a difference. These are all problems that are solvable if we'll get involved. So you can grab the book, This Precarious Moment, and find out what you can do to make a difference. This Precarious Moment is available at wallbuilders.com.
Welcome back to WallBuilders Live. Thanks for staying with us today. Rudy Atala, always good to have you, brother. Thanks for spending some time with us today.
Of course. Thank you so much for having me.
Hey, man, we saw several of the articles on the Iranian efforts to launch cyber warfare against the U.S. And from some of the articles I read, I mean, they made it sound like Iran was, right in league with China and Russia on their ability to do this. And I just know nothing about it. So we thought, hey, let's get Rudy on, find out what he knows and thinks. And is this a serious threat? Do you think Iran ramps this up after some of the things that Trump has been able to accomplish? What are your thoughts, bro?
Yeah, well, Iran farms out, although they have in-house capability, they farm out a lot of their cyber capabilities or, requests to other countries, mainly China. China does a lot of the bidding for Iran, since China has quite a bit of workers in there and has had, economic ties to Iran. Buying, basically funding people in various countries to do your cyber warfare bidding is not is very common. It's a normal thing.
Interesting.
So yeah, and the cyber warfare takes on just different facets. So what's really interesting is when they do those types of attacks, they're looking for ways to not only disrupt. So essentially, they normally target things like healthcare, financial services, and manufacturing. Those are the primary top key targets that they look at.
Are they? Have we noticed a significant ramp up in the last 2 months, or is that just par for the course for them? They've always tried to do as much as they can.
Yeah, and it's interesting. It's an interesting question. I mean, there is a small ramp up, but Iran is very how would I say? Iran doesn't do direct attacks. It's very rare that they do direct attacks. It's always indirect. Whether it's on the battlefield or in the cyber world. So they farm out a lot of their big stuff, and then it's just always trying to figure out exactly what they're trying to do becomes a little bit more of a task for the intelligence agencies.
Is there a when I hear this stuff about cyber warfare, most of the time I think, okay, the military's dealing with that, but I would assume private industry has to constantly, especially larger companies, think about this kind of thing too, because that would be, I would think, a place to attack if you can hurt economically the nation by shutting down some of your major players. Then it's a big win for the folks that want to attack America.
No, you're absolutely right on that. I mean, cyber warfare globally is becoming more and more of a huge industry. I mean, I think they're forecasting 2020 this year to be, something, to the tune of $2.1 trillion in costs. Battling cyber warfare and
wow.
Different, corporations protecting and whatnot. I'll tell you how far back it goes. At least when I was in the military, just to give you an idea of how far back the ideas of cyber warfare and the concerns were. In 1997, I was part of the Air Force Special Operations Command, and they were already briefing us on how. This is when internet was slowly starting to grow. They were briefing us on how, for example, the U.S. government was looking for ways to protect the companies that make cereal. Because, for example, if somebody hacks into a company that's making cereal and they increase the amount of iron that's going into your cornflakes or whatever, kids under the age of 5. If they get a higher dosage of iron, it could shut down their kidneys and have complete renal failure.
Wow.
So if somebody wanted to do something bad, they can attack, for example, the cereal industry. And then fast forward, that was 1997. Fast forward to today, cyber takes on everything. We got cryptocurrency. We've got, now we're moving quickly to, 5G, which is going to open up another Pandora's box. And everything we have is automated. I mean, you can turn on your car from your iPhone. You can start it up. So it means that anytime you have any of this type of infrastructure put in place, it means that hackers can hack into. So cybersecurity is now increasing, and people are looking for other ways to encrypt. And it's just a never-ending, evolution in this world.
Man, so it's hard to imagine how many different ways, and of course, then we could start just living in fear that everything's going to be shut down. So, how is our defense on this kind of stuff? Obviously, we're pretty good at it if we see so few headlines of things actually working. Is it both a military and a private industry doing well, and I assume in conjunction, working together at many levels as well?
Absolutely. So in the middle of 2009, the whole concept for the U.S. Cyber Command was created, but it didn't really go into a full operations until August 2017. And today, the U.S. Cyber Command is now an independent, unified combatant command with a 4-star general sitting at the helm. And it's the key role for Cyber Command is to defend the homeland, promote American prosperity, preserve peace, and expand American influence abroad. So we've got a command structure like Central Command or U.S. Special Operations Command. We have now a dedicated Cyber Command completely focused on this. The Chinese have been doing this for a very long time. They have their own version of a Cyber Command. And I think it was 2013, for example, an American company called Mandiant released a report on how the Chinese, they have a unit called PLA Unit 613398 or APT1, which was constantly hacking into corporations that work with the government, like Lockheed Martin, Northrop Grumman, those types, to steal secrets. Well, this is where the United States now is upped its game, and so between the NSA, Cyber Command, and whatnot, this is the world that we're going into, and this is the new warfare, if you want to look at it that way. Of course, the corporate world lends itself quite a bit in this space because, when they get hacked into, for example, when the North Koreans hacked into Sony several years ago, and when OPM was hacked into by the Chinese or whatnot, all of these issues kind of are money lost to our corporations. So the corporations are also trying to defend themselves, and they're working closely with the U.S. government. So yeah, this is it's a growing industry, and then we're seeing more and more protections. I think what we're going to see, Rick, in the future is as quantum computing comes online, which it is. IBM is doing some stuff on that, and Google's doing stuff on that. That it's going to bring the encryption process to a whole different level, where it's going to be impossible to break in, and that's a whole nother level. That's basically cutting edge technology that we're working on.
Okay, so for the simple-minded like myself, what you're saying is, when I see these headlines, I don't need to move off into the woods without any electronics in order to not be hacked. I need to stay positive and encouraged and know that the military is working hard on this and private industry is working hard, and we're actually doing a pretty darn good job.
Yes, exactly. We are, or else everybody. I mean, people will be hacked into every 10 seconds. But the best thing to do, and I mean for the listeners, is always keep your phone and your computer with the latest software up to date on the latest software. Why? Because they're always adding new codes to protect you from hackers and hacktivists and all that stuff.
Oh, see, Rudy, now you're ruining my day, because I always hate upgrading to the latest because I'm worried about bugs and all that kind of stuff. But what you're saying is, hey, that you actually need to do that because that's got those protections in it as well.
I mean, that's what I do every single morning when I turn on my phone and I turn on my computer. The first thing I do is update everything.
Wow.
If there's a new update, I just update it. It just keeps me safe the whole time.
You are the one guy in the world that could have convinced me of this. Anybody else, I would have said, nope, ain't doing it. But but if you do that, I'm changing my habit right now. I'm gonna do it as well. No, this has been really informative. I appreciate you sharing with us on this, Rudy, because I've been curious about it. It's not something we talk much about, and Dave and Tim were curious about it. So thanks, man. Appreciate your time today. Thanks for coming on. Looking forward to the next time.
Same here. Thank you so much, and God bless.
Thanks to Rudy Atala for joining us. We're back with David and Tim Barton, guys. We haven't covered much on cyber warfare, but it's an important topic for us to cover.
I've got to tell you, Rick, I don't know what I thought cyber attacks were, but this isn't what I thought they were.
I never would have included cereal and cyber attack threats.
Oh, no. This was kind of startling. It was really kind of transformation. And I'm sorry. Maybe I can't help myself, but I'm not sure I want to help myself on this. It's time for a sarcastic comment. The fact that Iran is hiring China to do this, that Iran has the money to hire China, maybe it costs about $1.5 billion to get China to do this.
They might have that in cash, actually.
Yeah, it could be that Iran has some cash available on hand somewhere.
Just U.S. currency laying around, no big deal.
Yeah, maybe pallets that arrived.
Flew it in at night.
Yeah, I wonder where Iran got that currency.
Yeah.
It just, when he was talking about this, it just struck me how ridiculous it was that we paid cash to Iran, who has declared themselves an enemy, who wants to take us out, and they're hiring China. The other thing that struck me was I was told recently by some intelligence guys that, China really doesn't invent anything. They steal it from everybody else, and then they make it better. And they said short of gunpowder, last time China really invented something was gunpowder way back 1300s. So it is amazing to me to see how the cyber attacks are occurring.
Well, one of the things too is we're getting into cyber warfare. As many friends as we have, who many of them are in the intelligence community, many of them former special forces military guys, kind of like Rudy. As much as we're around them and we hear so many conversations about things and situations right now on the ground, we have some pretty good intel going on. And yet with all the intel we had, I was very shocked as Rudy started telling some of these details, thinking that's not really what I thought was the way that cyber warfare was fought on some levels. And it gave me actually even a greater confidence in our military that if you go back, right, to when the internet is first done, and now in my mind I'm thinking like Al Gore invented the internet. No, he didn't, right? But back when Al Gore said he invented the internet, when the internet is just coming up and you have dial tone, right, and you're the beep and you have to wait forever and all this is happening.
All the dial-up internet, and we thought it was so fast back then.
Well, we were just so glad to have internet.
We were glad to have it, period.
Well, what's so crazy about this is that, Rudy's saying, hey, when internet is just kind of around, they're already identifying how this could in the future be used as a threat. It doesn't even hardly work yet. How if it's a cloudy day, you don't have internet anymore. And the military is able to go, you know what? I foresee that if we don't watch out for our cereal factory, it's so crazy that they would have these thoughts. And yet for there to be that much wisdom and that much intelligence, it makes me feel safer on some levels, knowing that we have some really good people doing some really good things.
Well, I did not have a clue that we had a 4-star general over Cyber Command. I mean, a 4-star general, that's Pentagon level kind of stuff. And instead of it being a 1-star, 2-star general with the command somewhere tucked away at Fort Bragg, I mean, this is a full-size command, a 4-star general over it. That's huge stuff. And, Tim, as you're talking about how they were thinking ahead, I remember back to my dad, who was an engineer, designed a lot of airplanes, military aircraft, and was a lead design engineer. And he went to church with a guy who worked with him at the same engineering plant. And the guy he went to church with was his sworn enemy at work because that guy played the part of a Russian. And whatever my dad came up with to whip the Russians, he would come up with a way to whip what my dad came up with. And my dad would have to come up with a way. And so these two guys are all the time. But that's how the American military kept ahead of the Russians for all those years, was we had guys thinking like Russians trying to disable us from inside the plant. And my dad's got to figure out ways to outsmart the Russians. And when Rudy said that, that they're thinking ahead way back when there really wasn't internet about how the cyber attacks, that reminded me of what they did in intelligence and military, and that makes sense now.
Yeah, it really is impressive.
Hey, hold that, guys. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back with David and Tim Barton. We're talking about cyber warfare today. You're listening to WallBuilders Live. Have you ever wanted to learn more about the United States Constitution, but just felt like, man, the classes are boring, or it's just that old language from 200 years ago, or I don't know where to start? People want to know, but it gets frustrating because you don't know where to look for truth about the Constitution either. Well, we've got a special program for you available now called Constitution Alive with David Barton and Rick Green. And it's actually a teaching done on the Constitution at Independence Hall in the very room where the Constitution was framed. We take you both to Philadelphia, the cradle of liberty in Independence Hall, and to the WallBuilders Library, where David Barton brings the history to life to teach the original intent of our founding fathers. We call it the Quick Start Guide to the Constitution because in just a few hours through these videos, you will learn the Citizen's Guide to America's Constitution. You'll learn what you need to do to help save our constitutional republic. It's fun, it's entertaining, and it's going to inspire you to do your part to preserve freedom for future generations. It's called Constitution Alive with David Barton and Rick Green. You can find out more information on our website now at wallbuilders.com. Welcome back to WallBuilders Live. Thanks for staying with us today. We're talking about cyber warfare today. We had Rudy Atala on early in the program, and David and Tim were talking about their response to that interview. You guys had to take a quick break. We're back now. Go ahead and pick up where you left off.
Yeah, a couple of things that stuck out to me when Rudy was talking about that with better technology, sometimes it increases opportunity for attack. As we have more and more inventions, right? As we look at now, everybody has a cell phone. One of the things that we know about our cell phones is they're always listening to us. And there's so much smart technology that if you look on your social media accounts, you could be talking about something. You could be talking about how you're so excited to go on this cruise, or you're so excited about vacation or whatever it is. And all of a sudden, all the ads on your social media are about cruises and about vacation getaway spots, etc. Whatever it is you talk about. You talk about guns, there's going to be advertisements for scopes or whatever it is, because the phones always listen. They're always collecting data. But even now, thinking of cybersecurity, if technology is always listening, if it's always gathering data and personal information, this is something that now when you have other nations trying to find ways to dismantle people, if they're able to hack into some of this, and we know they are, they're able to get so much information on so many people that they have such good opposition research on so many levels inside the nation that it just puts perspective for me even more when Rudy talked about, look, technology is great, but right, the more technology you get, his implication was the more risks you have, because now there's more things that can be threatened with cyber attacks and cyber warfare, which that, as you mentioned right before the break, is why it's kind of fun to think about that there is actually a cyber command, right? 2009 is when he said it was created, but it's fully operational in 2017, which now to me is really interesting too.
Yeah.
Because if it was created in 2009, why wasn't it operational in 2010? And this is one more of the many things that I think I can point to President Trump and go, this guy just kind of has a way of getting things done. And as many promises he's made and so many that he's kept, he's just got things done. And so now since 2017, we've had this cyber task unit. And this is something that, knowing it's in operation, again, it helps me feel safer, but recognizing the level of threats of what is there, even the way that, you mentioned where with your dad, my granddad, as he's having to think of creative ways and battling against, a guy who's playing a Russian in that regard, but probably in these cyber warfare units, they're dealing with people who are pretending like they're China, pretending like they're North Korea, like they're Russia, all these things. And they have to think about, where do we have to protect ourselves now with how much even agriculture is done through technology, right? With pretty much everything that keeps us alive.
Well, I was really intrigued with the three areas that Rudy picked. He said what they're going to target, because I thought they would target military. I thought they would target political centers. And he said, no, what they're targeting is healthcare and manufacturing and financial services. And I would not have figured healthcare, and I certainly wouldn't have figured manufacturing. But once I think about disruption, that if you take out healthcare or manufacturing and financial services, you'll have massive disruptions. And then the people are dissatisfied, and they're going to turn on their political leaders, and you create an insurrection from the inside. And so you're right, Tim. I mean, they're thinking about things that we wouldn't think about. That's not what I would have chosen.
Well, and this is why even as we look for upcoming elections, people are already talking about the Russian interference, and there's Ukraine talk and so many things. Well, there's no doubt other nations are trying to disrupt America, because if you're trying to make your nation better, you can do it by lifting yourself up or by tearing other people down. And sometimes you think you get a better piece of the market if you can destroy the company, or in this case, the nation who has the majority of the market. So there's no doubt there will continue to be these cyber attacks and stuff going on. But under the Trump administration, right, since 2017, this cyber warfare unit has been there helping to stop and prevent and thwart a lot of these attacks And man, I'm so grateful to have guys like Rudy who's been a part of this and now to give us a briefing to give us a much better perspective.
Yeah, special thanks to Rudy Atala for joining us today. We want to thank all the folks that are listening today and certainly all of our local stations across the country. And those of you that are listening, I mentioned at the beginning of the program being a force multiplier. If you would, please consider doing that today. Whether it's today's program or a recent program you grab off our website at wallbuilderslive.com, just forwarding that out, it does a lot. I mean, first of all, it gets people exposed to truth, and it gets them listening to the program so that we can encourage them 5 days a week throughout the week, giving them not only the interviews, but foundational principles, good news that's happening around the culture. It's a great way to get citizens to engage. I think one of the most important things that we can say to folks is you can make a difference. You can have a voice. You can be the catalyst in your community for restoring our biblical and constitutional foundations. Everyone has a part to play in this. And so what you do as a listener, when you take the program and you share it with folks, many of them never heard of WallBuilders Live, never heard of Rick Green or David Barton or Tim Barton, and for the first time they get to listen and they get to hear some of these things, and hopefully they get interested in learning the truth about American history, our Constitution, where we came from, and they listen more and more, and then they become a force multiplier. That's how this works. Maybe you want to host a Constitution class. Take the Constitutional Live with David Barton and Rick Green, our recording that we did at Independence Hall and in the WallBuilders Library, and bring people into your living room and get them to study that as well. You can do that by signing up at constitutioncoach.com today. Or you can take any of our video programs and materials and use them in your Sunday school class or in your home education for your children or your continuing education as a citizen, which every one of us ought to be willing to do. You can get all of those materials at wallbuilders.com today. So many ways you can make a difference. Hope you'll step up and be a part of the solution. You've been listening to WallBuilders Live.
We stand undivided, forever